Like a bonfire conversation.
And maybe if it's fun, like if you're really passionate about it. The other thing is that try to use your outside voice because yeah, we noticed in the first one that it wasn't necessarily everything was okay.
All you have to see lights, camera.
Yeah, wait.
Just kidding.
Make sure the camera looks
We're all awkwardly just
All
staring. He's like, no,
staring.
video's been on.
It's been streaming and we're like, oh.
Oh yeah, we're like, oh.
For an hour already.
It's really
Okay. Wait, countdown. 3, 2, 1, go.
it'll be like those really annoying YouTube things. And they're like, oh hey, I didn't see you there.
He kind of down 3, 2, 1, go.
No, I know, yeah, like, oh my god, I didn't see you there. Yeah, so obviously we're keeping it pretty cash today.
Yep.
I am feeling like totally under the pressure because everyone has just told me how amazing Bailey Reutzel was on the last panel as a moderator. So yeah, now I have to
You could
step
do
into
better.
her big shoes. Oh, I don't know, like who's scoring? Please don't keep score. Next panel, very excited to talk to these guys. We're going to talk about onboarding the next billion to the metaverse. It's something that people talk about a lot. I almost feel like it's become almost like a cliche catch cry of the space. So we're going to talk about what's actually required to get there. So we've got 4 amazing panelists. We've got Derick David. He is a contributor at Forbes. We've got Varun Panjawani, CEO of Medicare, and we're going to hear about these projects in a sec. So don't worry if you're not familiar yet. We've got Mandhyan. He is the CEO of Metaverse Go. And we've also got Sachin Tomar, who is the co-founder and CTO of Bioeconomy.
Yep.
So before we dig into it, because I know we've got like a few new projects on the panel now, Web3 obviously moves very, very, very fast, and we're always recognizing new problems that need to be solved. So it might be just helpful if we go around and just give like 30-second elevator pitch on what you guys are working on. Sachin, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. So, Bioeconomy is a middleware infrastructure, especially designed for the dApps, decentralized application. And we are abstracting away the blockchain complexities, for them.
Yep.
So, offerings like gasless transactions where user don't have to pay the gas, when they interact with the blockchains is one of our products. And
so is this like blockchain agnostic or what chain
it's
are you on?
blockchain. So our infra is blockchain agnostic. We are supporting like 7 to 8 blockchains, majorly used blockchains.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, and we are working with more than 200 applications right now on the mainnets.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. I didn't mean to cut you off. Was that the
No.
end of your elevator pitch or did you want
Yeah,
to say
so
more?
basically anything, whenever you interact with the blockchain, we'll be there to, make that process very frictionless. That's the main, aim. And that would actually bring, more adoption to the blockchains.
I have to say that like frictionless blockchain is an oxymoron these days. I've never really heard of that before.
There's a lot of things going in the background, but, we
Yeah.
abstract that, away from the users.
Super cool. Okay, well, let's dig into that more. What are you working on?
So at Forbes, I try to write about the future of society with crypto, but like focusing on faces than corporations.
Yep.
So highlighting the good stories about crypto and people that change their lives with crypto, for instance. I also do product design. I'm a founding product designer for a NYC startup that's basically working for Brex for crypto. So we help companies, DAOs specifically, get access to their treasury and find ways to spend their crypto for their employees, like for onboarding laptops, for instance, or for Starbucks coffee. So yeah, Brex for crypto.
All the things that you would usually buy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like everyone in the audience probably knows what a DAO is, but in case you don't, it stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. So we'll probably talk a lot more about that later. But Ash, what are you building?
So we're building Metaverse Go. What it intends to do is allow people, so I think maybe a step back.
Yeah.
There's a gaming revolution that's happening. The way games are for the future is changing. So we're technically a dApp store, but we're targeting Web 2 native and bringing them into Web 3. How we're doing that is we're simplifying onboarding. So simplifying the understanding without a wallet, without a crypto wallet, no understanding of crypto, you could start playing Web 3 games. And then on top of that, we connect them with the right community. And then after they start to earn and learn, we help them to spend. So it's that ease of onboarding into the crypto Web3 space. So introducing the whole new gaming environment is what we're doing with Metaverse Go.
Super interesting. It's almost hard to imagine these days like a Web 2 game and just being able to access a Web 3 game without having to do all the things
Yeah.
prior to just, I just want to play the game.
Exactly.
think
So
it
that's
was what?
exactly the point.
Yeah.
13,
Right? Yeah.
13 steps to start playing.
Actually, there's about 18 steps. You 5 different platforms. You need to have a wallet. You have to have crypto. You have to understand blockchain. You could then have to buy your NFT assets. So there's quite a lot of steps, and we're going to take that whole thing out, and you just sign up with a phone number. So
Wow.
forget the wallet, forget crypto, enjoy the game, and then earn.
yeah.
Very cool. I mean, I'm obviously a big fan of Metaverse Go too. So, I mean, it is just such a huge hurdle. And I think like we see that in so many different areas of crypto, no matter what you're building. So yeah, I'm definitely want to talk more about that later as well.
Sure.
But Varun, what are you working on?
So for us, we went back to the basics. So Maslow's hierarchy of needs and looked at healthcare. The last 2-3 years, really, it's been a perfect storm for tech. Obviously, we're here in Web3, crypto has exploded. It's meant tech's taken off. Web3's taken off. People are more aware of and using technology. But along that entire spectrum, they've become kind of what we call gig workers and become really aware of their healthcare needs. So for us at Medicare is essentially the most inclusive Web3 benefits platform. And to put that in a real world example, we're giving the gig workers, essentially retail, access to corporate price. We're using Web3 to build a virtual community and go to any provider and say, this is our virtual corp. We've got the same purchasing power. We're aggregating the community and saying, why do they need to spend retail? They're still workers. They're still employees. They're still corporates. And today in Web3, play to earn, in gaming, in hybrid models, I think all of us here today are essentially, in a way, terminology-wise, gig workers.
Right.
And so we want to essentially help bring down the cost of care and be more inclusive on who can access that level of healthcare.
That is such a massive problem to be solving. It's kind of large.
And so we simplified it. What's the best way to solve a difficult problem? Make the product cheaper for someone. Demand gets created. And so we're starting with the gig worker, but thanks to new technologies, to tokens, again, much like yourselves, we won't necessarily educate on what a token is, but we'll say how it works and the benefits.
Right.
But because of a token, we start with gig workers, but we're more competitive than today's B2B providers. So in our pipeline, we can go to a McDonald's, a Hyundai, whoever it may be, and say, who is your provider today? We have a more competitive price offering. And in emerging markets, price is the loudest voice, essentially.
Excuse me if I'm using the wrong terminology, but would you almost say this is like the Web3 reimagining of unions? Like a union, just a living collectives of workers?
Correct.
Yeah.
So unions are usually looked at as difficulties for companies.
Yeah, a lot, yeah.
Rather, we're saying we're aggregating purchasing power. So it is unionizing, but instead of making it on what is demanded from a company, rather we're using that power to go to benefit providers and say, why don't you give us a better price? And honestly,
and as you said, they're gig economy workers, as opposed to staff
Corporate.
that we're expecting employees. So that's a problem that people have been dealing with even before Web3. So that's pretty interesting. Yeah.
And I think without a token, customer acquisition is too expensive in Web2 world. Right. With Web3 and obviously with partner projects. And I think this is where the community comes in. Even as outside of Medicare, all of us with the community building in the crypto winter or in Paris in summer meltdown, we're all supportive. So if you want to pick up a project, if you want access to demand, you want access to partners, there's a lot of help in the space, which I think is going a long way to moving the industry forward. I think that's what's hugely different than 2017.
Yeah.
2017, people left the space. Today, they realize the technology is powerful, and leveraging that to keep it going, where price and markets are one thing, but what we're building is separate. We're using technology, not necessarily the trading elements of it.
Yeah. Well, let's chat about that, right? So it's difficult to onboard people to crypto. I think that's what you mentioned, the gaming revolution. And I think that's what was probably most interesting about that movement, because suddenly people had a different kind of incentive to learn how to use crypto. Play a fun game, you just earn some tokens, they're in a wallet, they could have some value. And then they had this incentivized kind of journey to go and figure out how to cash it out.
Right.
But where are we going next? You know, I'd love to hear from you guys where you still think there are challenges. We've heard a lot of hype around like how perfect play to earn was for this, but you know, we haven't got to the next billion users yet. So what are you guys seeing? Like, Sachin, what are you seeing in your world? Like, what do we still have to solve?
Yeah. So see, the whole purpose of introducing blockchain was to give you the ownership of your assets, right? You are removing the middleman. Whatever you own on the network, you are responsible for it. But not everyone is able to handle that. The custody of your funds, the security of your keys.
Yeah, it's like you could be your own bank. And by the way, remember this really confusing, like really long thing that makes absolutely no sense with weird words. And if you forget it or lose it, you lost all of your money ever. It's like, wait, sorry, why would I want to use this technology? That sounds awful.
Exactly. That's been some of the stories actually.
Yeah, I mean, like, see, the blockchain technology is still evolving. Like, we are still not yet there where we can see, we can say that, it is for the masses. This technology is for the masses. So, like, since we have seen in the past years also, how much this technology grew. Initially, there was Ethereum, right? That was very slow.
Yeah.
But it was very secure, blockchain. Then layer 2 came. They managed to somewhat like solve the problem of speed. Like, the transactions are fast. They managed to bring down the fees, but still, it's not for a common man. It's still not easy to understand. When you say you own your, assets, that means you have to do a lot of stuff, by yourself.
Yeah.
In Web2 companies or in Web2, products, you basically give that responsibility of management to other people. They're managing it for you, right?
Yeah.
So ownership of the asset still has to be there. I mean, that's the whole purpose of blockchain, right? Removing the middleman and giving you the ownership. But how can we make it easy, for users to still maintain their own, assets, but still able to, they would still able to, access the blockchain technology in a very easy way. So advancement in those areas are like much needed if we want to say we want to achieve mass adoption of the blockchain technology. And that's where most people are working on, onboarding users, removing the getting the cost down, and then sponsoring those gas fees, application sponsoring for their users. It's like a customer acquisition cost for them, right? So a lot of different concepts are still there, but still a long way to go.
Well, and as you say, things like the speed and scalability, like, some blockchain games that I play at the moment, I mean, they're so slow. Like, if you're doing some kind of transaction heavy activity in the game, and I think people who are in crypto, they have a high tolerance for that. So they're actually they don't mind. But I mean, most people like living in the real world outside the blockchain bubble wouldn't stand for that. So kind of focusing on that has got to be a priority. Yeah, and that has to be priority. In the top 3, And security, like blockchain provides you security of your assets because it's decentralized, not like single entity is not owning, right? So security is there, like we have solved that using the blockchain technology. Ownership is there, but like access to it is still, very complex. I think that UX layer, I would say, that UX layer has to be, developed so that access to blockchain becomes easy. So that's what Bioconomy is also working towards. Dovetails beautifully. We've got a UX expert on the panel. Like, how do you see it? Because I do think UX is a really big part of that. Like, throughout the entire journey, when you were talking about like layer 2s, for example, you've even got to learn how to use a bridge, and then there's also a lot of PR about, bridges getting exploited and things like that. So there's so much out there to deal with. How do you view that through a UX lens?
Well, like first to start, UX won't do anything if the product isn't solving anything, right? So like, of course, like number one step is like to make sure like your product is actually solving something or solving a real world problem. Blockchain has always been that thing. It's like, a technology looking for a use case. That was kind of what we used to say back in 2017, but and it also kind of reminds me like when Web 2 started, and even like in the early days of the internet, right? Internet was born, but it also created problems. Same way for Web 2. Same thing is happening for Web 3. Problems will be there, so new innovations will be there as well. So this is why we see a lot of new companies born out of this type of revolutions, internet revolutions, right? It's like we keep creating problems and then we keep finding solutions, right? But as long as we are solving the right problems, then we're good. And, and like from a UX perspective, like for instance for Web3, I think it has to do with a lot of like, for instance, language, a lot of jargon. It's already confusing for a lot of users. We take that for granted because we're technical people, right? And sometimes teams, they actually take for granted the designer role, and they don't put much value on designers, for instance. A lot of Web3 startups have done that like in 2017 or 2018, but like right now, since like a lot of these people started posting on Twitter about UX problems on Twitter, even though in reality right now, we're actually seeing a lot of improvement in UX because like a lot of companies started becoming more aware of it. So it starts with that awareness, right? Awareness and like consideration. When you have a team that considers and is aware of user experience and customer experience in general, everything changes. You start thinking from the user's shoes, and you start creating and implementing features that actually matter.
Yeah, features that matter. So many good sound bites when you're just talking about it. I was like, yes. Like, how do you guys see it? Like, I mean, with Metaverse Go, it's quite a specific solution in terms of how you're onboarding people and trying to remove all those barriers. Like, how hard is that? Like, how much do you have to build in the front end or change about the UX to make sure that people have this frictionless experience?
So it's a mix. We're building on on the back end, everything will still be there. We're taking care of building out wallets or linking out, building out profiles. But as a user, the big challenge there is one, the time, the tolerance for waiting, right? Yeah. Imagine you have to create an account, buy your first crypto, get your account validated, probably take a few days. You just want to play a game and it takes you a week to get started on that game. So we take that time, we eradicate it and make you active within 24 hours or less. Actually, less if you have the asset already, but the asset granting is what takes a little bit of time. But think of that from an e-commerce delivery standpoint. We just took what would have taken 7 days delivery into 24 hours from our activity. So speed to onboard is one thing. The second thing is a community challenge, right? There's so much news out there. There's a lot of curiosity, but they don't know what's right, what's wrong, who to trust in this new economy. So building out and identifying the right community to go to, then builds that trust. At least they can go in, they can ask the right people. So those are the challenges of onboarding. The first one is it's super hard to get onboarding. Halfway, 3 days in, you give up because you can't wait. Next is you don't know who to ask, so we connect you to the right person. Then once you're in, the next question is, what do I do, right? Which crypto do I buy? Which game do I play? So we curate, we tell you, okay, this is what we see to be moving. This is the one that has a good game experience because some are still crap, but sorry, can't use crap.
Shit, stop swearing.
All right. So some are still there, but we're starting to see very, very good progress. So I think we're at a stage where you're starting to see initial flight, right? It's proof of concept. It's proof, like for example, Axie, there's still room to grow, but as a case study, it's fantastic. There's so many users on board, people enjoy the game. So there is progress. You see investment in that way. So we connect them to the right games where they will have fun. And then at the end of the day, we teach them how to withdraw. Without having to teach them, we enable the initial withdrawal. So simplifying those 4 things is really making it very easy to experience crypto without the risk, right? You don't feel like, oh, I made a wallet, I forgot my keyword chain, I lost my money, or did I buy it? What should I use, Ethereum 2.0 or not? Forget about that for now, simplify it.
Yeah, I think you mentioned onboarding is a problem in gaming.
Right.
I think onboarding is a problem in every Web3 application.
Right.
Yeah.
And even you manage to get them on board. And talking about the user experience, every dApp which I have seen so far provides similar interface for the new user as well as the old user.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's a very area where we can improve a lot.
Right.
So there's a reason why that's the case. I think too many of us in the space look at it as, we're in Web3, we must secure everything, we must chain everything, we must capture every data point. Why? I think not enough of us are looking at what's the business model what's critical for chain and what can I keep off chain.
Yeah.
And so for us, and just I think in general, our philosophy is squint hard enough and you shouldn't know you're in Web3.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we're approaching it.
Right.
And wherever possible, if the infrastructure doesn't exist today, find a workaround. And then, I mean, Bored Apes, for example, they dropped NFTs and then they launched tokens.
Right.
Yeah.
If there's an issue with tokens, if there's an issue with onboarding, if there's an issue with payment gateways, if the infrastructure doesn't exist, can you drop an NFT and later drop tokens when the infrastructure exists? So I think if you're not looking at your app or your business or your DApp, rather what does my user need? And can I do it in a manner that makes him or her feel like it's Web2?
Right.
That's your onboarding ramp up. And I think the one positive is the exchanges have done a great job in at least educating people on how to get on and make it feel safe. So someone else has done the hard work. Don't reinvent the education wheel. Don't talk to users and tell. Back in the day, you carried a book for your notes. Then you carried your laptop. Today, you carry your phone, but your phone's notes show up on your laptop. Do we know how a computer works other than Intel Inside? You know, the great ads, or how the cloud and AWS. Do you have to set up an AWS account to get your notes on a cloud?
Yeah.
So if you can kind of make it feel like forget the tech, here's the benefit.
Yeah.
Right.
That's kind of
Like
what we're.
every other technology that we use in our life. Like I love this one because it's kind of like we all use a mobile phone, but I don't know how it works. I don't know how my car works. I kind of have a basic idea,
You have
but like
one friction point. Sign up and the 15 steps on location, security, scan your face, do all of that for your biometrics. It's a one-time pain point. And so for us in our DApp, we're looking at Medicare as in the model, you have a one-time pain point to on-ramp.
Right.
Can we work around that by doing airdrop so you don't even realize and reterm it as not a token, but a membership? Not a.
We're talking about this language thing before. Yeah, it's super important.
Not a DEX, but a transferable membership. So put it in words that they're like, oh, I get it. And then you've kind of got the solution on how to on-ramp them up without making them feel, am I going to lose my money if I put one extra character in my 27 string
chain?
So this is a follow-up question, which I apologize was not in our pre-agreed questions.
Right.
But you guys are all going toward this space of improved usability, where everything, all the technicalities are under the hood.
Right.
Most of the conversations I've had on this topic before, people are like, oh, if you can make it simple to onboard people, then they kind of go backwards and learn all the things around like self-sovereignty and, your own keys, your own coins, that sort of thing. So are you guys thinking about it in a totally different way? Or do you think maybe there could be both? Like if people want to kind of go deeper into the technology and become more independent in using it, they can. But are you kind of thinking that most people, they're never going to see that and they're never going to care? Like,
so
let me jump into this one quickly because retail user Web3, we might learn it, but for benefits, will a corporate for 100,000 employees learn how to stake tokens for 100,000 employees with us? No, they'll say, here's one person, please figure it out. Give me an account manager. So we might end up taking that burden.
My take is it's a percentage of total population. There will be 20% that would probably want to go under the hood, figure out how each activity is, and how does the wallet work? Let me create my own. Let me transfer.
Have a level of self-sovereignty.
Level themselves. But for the greater majority, they don't want to figure out what's in their phone. So if you want mass adoption, 80%, you don't even. So a while ago we were talking about building and targeting a community. What we fail to do as we build out our apps is we're targeting the people that are already fanatics. We have to, if we want to expand, we target the guy who doesn't know anything about crypto, doesn't know anything about NFTs, and we talk to them in the language that they know. Then they'll get on board. So we can gradually take steps and let them go as far as they want, right? We don't have to force that everything, every blockchain out there, know every cryptocurrency out there. If you don't want to figure out whichever cryptocurrency, stick to one. Yeah, that's all right.
I think that's the goal. Like when you use an application, nowadays dApps are like on multiple chains. Not they don't stick to one chain, right?
Yeah.
So you want to use the application, not the blockchain. Like you don't want to know whether I should now switch to Polygon, whether now I should switch to Ethereum to use this one application. So, there's this narrative of being chainless.
Right.
You don't need to know the chain behind the scene. You just need to interact with the dApp, right? That's what we expect, the future, to look like for the blockchain-based application. And, the good thing about blockchain is it's open source. So even the 10% or 15% people who want to know what's happening, under the hood, how your keys are being managed, like even though we managed to abstract that away on the UI level, but the people who want to know, they can still get those information because everything is open source, everything is accessible. So that's a good thing about this technology. We are not taking away your ownership at the same time, but we are still giving you the accessibility to the whole tech. If you want, you can go deeper, right?
If you want.
Yeah,
you don't have to.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That level of interoperability that you're describing excites me though, because you were also mentioning before around like Ethereum is not great for scalability, at least not yet, like pending merge, but but it is great for security. And then you've got something like Solana, which is less decentralized, but far better for throughput. And for a user, it's like, I can definitely see use cases that would be good for different chains. It shouldn't be a one chain world. It's like, how do we get to that space where we can have
interoperability?
Yeah, no pressure.
No, so I think you'll get there. If you think, maybe look back 10, 15 years for Web 2, right? You go to different browsers, the websites will look completely different. Today, you don't even know if it was Java, if it was HTML5. You still see the website the way it was intended to be presented. So I think it'll get to the point where interoperability will be there, of course, with the help of companies that are building for it, right? But as a user, you don't care.
So how far off is this?
It's close. It's actually quite close.
How close do you reckon?
Maybe in a year time.
A year?
1 to 3 years.
Bullish.
Bullish.
The reason is the build's happening in the winter. And a lot of us, I think what's driving this is people are no longer working on L1, L2 infra. We've gone to dApps, problem sets on onboarding, gaming, working with telecoms, which means now we're facing the next level of business model problems. How do we get payment gateways? How do we get distribution? How do we get usage? Which is now forcing us to go back to the infrastructure players and say, this is my next need.
Right.
And if you can't solve it, Web3 will either be a forgotten memory, or we've got a business use case, fix the problem, and we've got adoption. And I think that next level of problem set is coming to the surface, and we're going, these are the gaps to get there. I think that's forcing a lot of build that's coming in to the space. So that's why I think 1 to 2 years. Otherwise, a lot of dApps working today, building, it'll be difficult to go to market without the infrastructure in place.
I also think consumers have changed, right? If you look back a decade, consumers are okay that I have to use platform A for activity A, platform B. Right now, people are used to getting everything on demand in a single platform. So from that
It'd be so
experience,
interesting to know like the attention spans, like how they've reduced over time, and I guess the tolerance for something not working or not being delivered immediately.
So with that knowledge, the companies have to adjust, the corporations have to adjust. They can't say, oh, we'll be exclusive forever. They will have to find a way to work together. Yeah,
and earlier there were like not many solutions also. Not many are like, for example, in wallet space, like I think MetaMask is the only one who was there that couple of years back. But now there are like many, other wallet solutions that are much more superior in the UX.
I mean, if you look at Coinbase's integration with Shopify, you've just eliminated a whole amount of friction points. Where I can pick any e-commerce product and allow you to pay in any crypto if I want to take that risk. But you as a user, just connect one on-ramp and that's it. There's no what chain, what token. I can just pick, and there's an FX. You don't know how the currency is being swapped, but I get your token and we're good to go.
Yeah, and also like, we talk a lot about ownership, but still we don't see, still we see centralized application being used a lot by the users. This, makes me think, whether people want ownership or not.
I've thought this so many times.
So, I mean, we are we have actually built a good, because trusting someone else, it also comes with their own problems.
Yeah.
Like bank can shut down your account without
You mean
giving
Celsius?
you any notice.
Oh, wow.
Boom.
You said it.
Well, I heard 3AC is hiring. They're making a comeback. They need a couple of plastic surgeons. They may or may
I
not
read
pay.
that tweet too. Oh my God.
So when it comes down to these kind of situations, then you think about ownership, whether I should own myself or not, whether I should trust them or not, right? So I think it's still a long way to go to see like where people want to go to decentralized solutions, or you still want to own your stuff. But again, like, because we believe people should own their stuff, right? And that's what we are working for. We are making this stuff easy, right, for them.
Right.
So they don't think about using centralized exchanges because they're easy to use. I mean, that's what they do, right?
Yeah.
They're easy to use. That's why people go. So I think
You raised such a good point though. And again, we also didn't talk about this before. And also I'm just checking, do we have like 10 minutes left? I think. Yeah. Cool. Because this is really good.
Okay.
This idea of digital ownership, like whether people want it, whether they even get it or understand it, I think is such a big question. I mean, I have plenty of like normie friends who are always kind of going like, why wouldn't I just right click and save?
Right.
And I think that's reflective of a couple of things. Like firstly, just the nascent stage of the industry. I'll make that a few things actually. Nascent stage of the industry, the fact that it's never been possible before, and Web 2 models were all about abundance without any kind of real ownership and value. And then the third thing, that the concept of value itself is something that normal people don't sit there and discuss all the time. Like, why would I want to own something? Why would I want to value it? In the same way that you were describing, like, we don't sit down and talk about the internet or like, how it works and why I would set up an e-commerce store on it. Like, we don't talk about those kind of things in detail. And it feels like that's where we're at with digital
Well, I feel like
ownership.
we do, but people outside of
We do. And then where there's annoying people that
Correct.
kind of go out to dinner with their friends, we're like, but you don't get it. Let me explain it to you in great detail. And they're like, oh my God, my eyes are glazing over. But it's like, I'm really interested to know what you think, because I think it's inevitable. I do think that people will want to own their digital things.
Right.
I think digital existence will become more and more important, and people will want provenance and assurance. But what do we need to do to actually get there, and how far off is that?
I think primarily it's education, but it's not that far off. The reason they ask somebody else or a different entity to take care of things is they're not confident in their capability or understanding. But if you ask if the knowledge or the growing interest is there to own and to have access, that is growing, right? They're challenging big corporations. I used to work for Facebook, and the biggest,
Awkward.
Well, used to, but see, the big challenge there is a lot of people think that, oh, I own my Instagram account. That's my photos over there. You basically gave it away by posting it over there.
But they don't know, and they don't think of it like that. It's like, but
But
it's
they're
my
starting.
account. I own it. No, you
Exactly.
don't.
But they're starting to, the moment their accounts get taken down and then they read the fine print.
You mean
That's
they're no
what-
longer an influencer?
Yeah, when they lose
Yeah,
the
those
10
people
friends,
who have
right?
a monetary connection to their
correct.
account,
and
like that's
people
my
livelihood depends
Yeah.
on that, right?
So yeah, they start to raise their voice, right? And then that's where they go, what can we do? Where can we do? Or how do we put a stop to this?
Yeah.
And then that's when understanding and will create that shift.
That's an
And I
interesting
think
idea.
it
It's like
depends asset
influences
class.
as like low hanging fruit in
Low-hanging
terms of adoption.
Media,
Creators
fans.
more.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Creator is the term, right?
So actors, celebrities wanting participation from their fans. So the fans can own ownership instead of records. So there's elements, but I think ownership will be industry dependent. Not everyone needs to own every element of what they partake in.
Yeah.
So I think that's where you'll have lead industries, and others I will say that's not for us. So I think it goes back to what Ash said. It kind of a certain percentage of the population will want to look underneath the hood. A certain percentage will want to own certain assets, and that's sort of where we'll build on. And it'll be what's important to them. For a gamer, they might want to own their game assets. I don't mind not owning my game asset. I'm a casual player. Whereas for someone else, owning their crypto and not relying on a bank may be important.
Well, the house we're in today, it's like an Airbnb house. Like that kind of
Correct.
business model was not nobody imagined that at the dawn of the
Yeah.
internet, and now it's ubiquitous.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah. Derick, we haven't heard from you in a while. I'd love to hear like your thoughts on this. You know,
I love
how
listening.
around the UX of this, like how would you approach that in terms of product design to make sure that we're kind of allowing for this digital ownership and helping onboard people, getting them comfortable with it, or not? Like maybe, as you say, people just want to rent assets that are owned by other people. Like, again, like how does this come into your purview?
It goes back to Ash education opinion. So a lot of these is also education. You know, especially that right now we're starting to see what possibilities what we could achieve more with crypto and blockchain technologies, right? So a lot of educational initiatives have to be done for this, and we have to like show the potentialities for digital ownership, what people could do about it, what are the downsides, what will happen if this happens, right? Some things have to happen, you know, just for things to move forward.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the same for law, you know, before, if they want to approve a policy, sometimes they must stage, I don't know, you know, something, you know, and they will leverage that. They will leverage that and say, hey, this happened, we should do this.
Right.
So some bad things must happen for a good reason.
Yeah. I mean, if there's no problem, why would you look for a solution? Right?
So I have
Exactly.
a good term I want to kind of coin. Maybe this is a good spot
Okay.
to do it.
Is everybody taking notes?
Going from shareholder ownership to stakeholder ownership. If we can get people aware, that's a nice one-liner to have education around. I'm a stakeholder, I'm participating. I want the ownership to be with my stakeholders.
Different levels, yeah.
And all stakeholders. So you're now moving away from profit, equity, centralized to DAOs, tokens, etc., but shareholder to stakeholder. So going into that
Good
model.
point.
I love it.
Talking about UX, so have you ever heard of lasagna design? They have this term, lasagna design.
No, but I know the food.
I also like lasagna.
It's very good. I have one in the back. Yeah, so it's we all mentioned what it means lasagna design before. So it's like layering all the
Right.
you know, when you eat lasagna, you know it's good, but when you see it, you know, it's so simple. It's there.
Yeah.
It's prepared for you, and when you eat it, it's good. But when you look under the hood, the ingredients that make the lasagna good is there, but you don't know what it is, or you know, where it comes from. But
It just tastes good.
yeah, and
Yeah.
the reason that they use lasagna is because it has multiple layers. So
Yeah.
it's used a lot as like a metaphor for user experience, because like there's usually you use a lot of layers when you design for a good user experience, right? So when you design like for a web application, normally the first step is to like bring everything in your artboard, what should be put in this first page. Then you trim it down, you know, what elements should be hidden with the drop down, what should be hidden in the settings page. So you're layering everything, you know, and you leave the most important in the first layer and the less important in the last layer.
And I think Web3 is moving so fast. It's like you have to go through that process again and again and again and again as things change. We've got 2 minutes. Again, didn't plan for this, but this is such a bullish panel, and you guys are all super visionary and very clearly thinking about the future. Maybe 30 seconds from each. Got to do it really quick, but what is your biggest bullish take on the future of onboarding in Web3? Like, what do you see in, let's say, 10 years from now, which is basically a millennia in Web3? Where do you think we'll be? Is anyone game enough to take that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go.
Well, thinking Web 2, if you think of the top Fortune 500 companies, 5 years ago, they're all .coms, right?
Yeah.
15 years ago, they never changed for the longest time. The next 10 years, they'll all be Web3 companies as the take, and we're building it today.
Mic drop. Wow. Okay. Amazing.
.io.
I'm totally on board with that. Yes.
Unique URLs, .care, .io, .industry. But the one I want to end with is in terms of innovation and onboarding the next billion users, education and interoperability, community work. I think no one's looked at the innovative models. So I'm going to call Ash up after this and say, Ash, I want you to give all of Leah, all of you gamers, a challenge. Every Sunday, play a game for 4 hours And in return, instead of you giving them a play to earn, you can give them a coupon for an insurance or a coupon for a doctor consult. My point there is what Web3 allows to do in interoperability and as a community, or going back to the olden roots of a village where you bought a product for product, your time for a product, not time for earnings, and we're all our own entities. And I think that interoperability, the innovation around onboarding, marketing initiatives, that will, if you don't own a Web3 component in your company in the next 10 years, you're not going to be able to compete.
Yeah.
And that is just one example of why Web2 can't compete with Web3.
All right. We are at time. It's going to be quick, but bullish take. 10 years.
I mean, see, Web3 is inevitable. So as, Ash mentioned, major Web2 companies will have to move, towards Web3 going forward.
Yep.
And the good thing, Web2 companies have is they have users. And we have the technology and we basically, we have a place where you have, you have a way to own your stuff, but we don't have users. We are looking for users.
Yeah.
Right. So combination of this Web3 technology and Web2 big companies is actually the ultimate, goal for the mass adoption, right?
So in 10 years, every Web2 company will be a blockchain company, obviously.
Yeah. So for as an infra company, for us, the work, to be done is how much we can abstract away this, Web3 infra. Yeah. That is like too complex. Yeah. We don't want to look at it, but we want it, behind the scenes.
All the benefits without the headache.
Yeah, Web2 ready, Web3 infrastructure is what we are building.
Cool.
Derick? Well, I could see a world where people will use crypto for everything, but as reliable as running water. So how like Axie Infinity, they have like SLPs, right?
Yeah.
So like imagine one day you could use those SLPs to buy something from shop, directly, like an extension or integration.
Plug for XLD. It's there.
You can now with XLD.
Now with XLD.
They're meant to be here. They couldn't make it. But
they work
really
with us at Metaverse Go, so that's how it happens.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing because if
that's
a bullish take, which is happening right now. So
it goes back to it's only 1 or 2 years away.
Yeah.
Because what he was looking for is being built right now. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Awesome. We're at time. We have to wrap, guys. They're going to start playing the music and kick us out. But this has been really, really fantastic. I have never been more excited. I mean,
thank you.
The temperature outside today was enough to tell me that there is no crypto winter. But I mean, now I'm just,
It's just a summer sale.
We're only getting started.
Summer sale.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back soon with the next panel.
Thank you.
That's fun.
Yeah,
Great.
fun.
Yeah.
Let's